everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena with Selena Marie LLC, and I love to share all the crafty things here on my channel. In today's video, I will be showing you how to make your own custom faux leather hat patch using the WeCreat Vista. I'm going to be showing you how to get your design in the WeCreat software, how to engrave it, including all of the settings that I personally use, and how to press it on your hat. For this video, I'm going to be using some leatherette. It is laserable that I picked up from Amazon. When selecting your material, you do have to be careful about the kind of material that you get. You don't want to get anything that has PVC in it because that's going to emit harmful chemicals to you. So just make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. I am going to move my laser over to the window and vent it out of the window. I don't typically use a ventilation system or a purifier. I just want to run it straight out of the window, but just be cautious of the materials that you are using. Make sure that they are made for laser engraving and safe. This is the one that I get from Amazon, and I'll link it in the description below for you guys. I'm going to link another vendor in the description below called Lone Star Adhesive that I've heard wonderful things about their leather and their leatherette. If you've tried this company, let me know in the comments below. I haven't personally tried them just yet, but I do want to in the future, but I do want to give you that resource so you guys know where you can get some additional materials as well. Now let's go ahead and jump in and get our design ready. Before we get started with the engraving and cutting process, I do want to show you how I have my exhaust set up for the laser machine. Ventilation is very, very important for lasers. You want to have some sort of window where you can let out your exhaust. You can get a purifier if you'd like. I just personally don't think they're the best options. They still make your room smell. They don't get rid of all of the debris and stuff depending on which one you get. Some are better than others, but I personally just run mine straight out of the window. And I do want to show you a little trick that my husband helped me come up with. And what we did was we got an air assist fan from Amazon, and he put it in a piece of wood and cut out a hole here and just installed the fan there so I can put this piece in the window and have my laser ventilated out that way through the exhaust hose. I'm going to plug it in, and it's going to help pull out that air. Usually just stick it in there like that. And I will be sure to link everything in the description below for you guys for that air assist fan if you're interested in doing that for yourself. Let's start with grabbing our design, and I'll show you how to import that into the WeCreat software. But I'm going to grab my design from Creative Fabrica. I have a couple pooled. You can also get them from design bundles or Etsy. Now do keep in mind when you do laser engraving, depending on the leather that you have, it's only going to engrave one color. So for example, the leather I am using today is rawhide, and it's only going to engrave black into it. I found these cool Texas, this one comes with SVGs and PNGs. I personally like to work with SVGs in the WeCreat software. However, you can use PNGs as well, but I'm going to show you based on these Texas designs. You can drag and drop or use any sort of PNG in the WeCreat software. So the first one I'm going to import is going to be my PNG. So we have our design, and I need to create what's called an offset around this image because this image is what's going to engrave. The white part of the design is not going to engrave. That's where faux leather is going to show through whatever color you have, and the black is going to be what's going to engrave on our patch. So what we need to do is create a cut line for this. So I'm going to go up here to my offset, and I'm going to create that. And you can make this as large of an offset as you want or as small as you want, but I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger. So I think I like 0.1. Now I'm going to highlight everything, and I'm going to resize it down to the size patch that I want. I personally do not make patches bigger than 2.5 if it's going to go on a hat. However, that's totally up to you, whatever you want to do, as big or as small as you want it. But I'm going to do 2.5 for my patch here. And so that's our first patch. Before we go over our engraving settings and cut settings, I'm going to go ahead and grab my other design that I wanted to make for a hat patch, and I'm going to make them both at one time. And actually what I'm going to show you is another Texas design, but in an SVG format. The blue bonnet was a PNG, and this one, this little desert-y Texas, is going to be an SVG. And I'm going to make it 2.5 as well. So I'm going to click on my SVG, and same concept. I'm going to click offset up here, and I'm going to do the 0.05. And I'm actually going to do this one again. Offset So I'm gonna do both with a 0.05 offset. Go ahead and group these together. And now I'm going to make sure my designs are 2.5 and 2.5. So now I have both my hat patches here. Let's go ahead and load our laser material into our machine, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the camera and how to utilize that feature. You will have to cut these sheets down from Amazon to fit into your laser machine. I have some spare pieces from previous projects, and I'm going to use one of these. So it really doesn't matter, depending on how many you make at a time, it really doesn't matter where you put it in the machine, because the camera is going to show onto the computer and show you where it is. But I personally like to just put it in the middle, honestly, just for recording purposes, so it looks nice. But it doesn't matter where you put it in there, as long as you see it on your WeCreat machine, which I'll show you here in a second. And what I like to use is just some good old masking tape. Just try to get this to be as far on the edge of the leatherette as you can so it doesn't actually engrave. I have had it engrave on this before. It doesn't mess up the cut, but it will prevent the engrave from showing all the way through. So you just want to be careful about that. But you want to make sure that your leatherette is nice and flat. This one wants to curl up. And I'm going to do my sides for that reason. It's very humid in Texas today with my window open and the nice summer heat. It's probably why leather doesn't want to stick. Well, it's really my tape that's not wanting to stick today. Just for that little piece, since I'm not going to be using that section. I mentioned just get it as close to the edge as possible so you have as much room to engrave as you can. I know it doesn't look pretty, but the results will be worth it. Now, for the Vista, your machine does have to be open to utilize the camera feature. So we're gonna leave our machine open and head over to the software and refresh it so we can see what the camera sees. So we're gonna wanna make sure that all of our settings are correct within the WeCreat software for engraving and cutting of these patches. I'm gonna go over here to my layers tab, and I'm going to select each of my paths and just make sure my outer red line here is set to cut. That is the portion that I wanna cut of my patch. So these are the settings that I personally use for the leatherette that I buy on Amazon. Not every material is the same, so you want to make sure that you test your material. Always do some sort of test cut, test engrave. Settings for real leather and faux leather may vary depending on the brand and vendor. So I'm going to change my red outline to be cut, and I do 100% power, 10 speed, and 2 passes for my cut on the WeCreat Vista. I'm going to double check the other one. 100% power, 10 speed, 2 passes. And then for my engraving, you want to make sure this is set to fill engrave. If you do line engrave, it's only going to engrave the outline of that design, which you may want for future designs or certain aspects of your design and things like that. But for this purpose of the hat patch, I want it to be fill engrave. I want to engrave all of that black that is showing on my design. And I will use 75% power, 200 speed, and line density of 100. You can adjust your line density if you would like. It is going to make your design more pixelated, but I have learned with smaller, more detailed designs like hat patches, you don't really need to adjust the line density because it's gonna make it heavier, and I found that it was engraving a little bit too much into this particular faux leather that I was using, so I just stick with 100 line density. Now, let's go ahead and find our device. Everything is set up and ready to go. My machine is on, so I had to click the WeCreat on USB, even though I was still saying my Vision Pro. It just had to kind of switch it up and see that it is the Vista machine. So up here now it is connected. So what I'm going to do is hit refresh since the machine is on and this awesome laser has a camera so I can see exactly what I'm working with. I'm going to do the auto measure feature on here so you can see that, but I'm going to move my patches to where my leather is. I might have to move my tape, as you can see. I adjusted my tape a little bit, and I'm gonna hit refresh again, and now let's see what that looks like. Trying not to have to rotate my lines. Careful moving them. Make sure you select the cut line and your engraved line. Don't overlap them. I'm just doing one at a time. So now you can see exactly where everything's going to engrave and cut on your leatherette. Now, if you adjust anything, just make sure you always hit that refresh button. I click it just to make sure that I haven't shifted anything before I hit the go button. And then I'm going to click auto measure. I'm going to measure the thickness of your material that's in your machine, which it is 1 millimeter thick, so that's pretty close. This accuracy does vary sometimes a little bit. If you're hesitant of it, just go ahead and put your own 1 millimeter or measure your thickness. You can get a micrometer to measure the millimeter thickness of your items, or you can just go based on the auto measure of the WeCreat. Just make sure it's pretty close to what you expect. I always just measure everything just to be sure. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and hit start, and then let's head over to our machine. So it's saying that this is gonna take 7 minutes and 33 seconds for 2 hat patches, and these are pretty detailed. I'm gonna click the framing feature that is on the software. I don't usually use it because the Vista has a camera, but if you're wanting to make sure, hit frame to see exactly where your designs are going to be. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to hit send on my software, and we're gonna close our machine and then press our little button. I love when they just fall out. Just satisfying perfection. After you are done cutting your designs, they are going to look dirty. They're going to have soot all over them, and we're going to need to clean this. So what I recommend using, and this is actually the first time, so to clean my patches, I am going to be using the sprayable leather cleaner and conditioner by the Chemical Guys. This is pH neutral and balanced specifically for real, genuine leather. However, it also works on faux leather and vinyl and other things like that. So that's what I'll be using. And I'll be using a microfiber cloth. This one is dirty from my previous projects, but it's been washed, so there shouldn't be any residue on it. I'm going to spray this stuff on my microfiber cloth just to not overpower my patch. Then I am just going to start wiping. You'll see it'll all start to come up, and I also clean the sides of my patches. You might have to do it one more time depending on how much soot ended up on your patch. If it's super detailed, you might end up with more than others, but just go through. Then I'm gonna let it dry and we'll press these on our hat. Other one. Oop. Okay, my edges. How cute. So this is how our patches turned out. Do have a little microfibers on there. So much for microfiber. But once they dry, we can dust all of those fibers off. I think they turned out so good. Like the detail is just amazing. And as I mentioned, this one was an SVG and this one was a PNG. Now let's go press them. For today's project, I will be using the HTV Rant hat heat press, which I find to be very beginner friendly. If you're just getting into hats, it's a great way to start practicing. So let's go ahead and turn this on. I'm gonna set it to 320 degrees for 20 seconds. And we're gonna let that heat up, and then we're gonna start prepping our hat. So I'm gonna take the case. I like to use the case that comes with the HTV Rant hat heat press, and I put my little ironing mat on top of that. And then we're going to use this hat that I picked up from Aviva Wholesale, I believe. They have locations in Texas specifically, but they also ship online as well. But you can also get these from like All Day Shirts, Shirt Space, anything like that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my hat as big as I possibly can. And I want to move my sweatband out of the way because you don't want to add any creases. Shimmy it on there. And once it's on there, then you can pull that sweatband out. Okay. So I pulled my sweatband out of there just so it doesn't add creases. And I'll put this back. And just give it a nice feel. You want to make sure you feel the padding underneath, which I do. I feel the padding. Since I am using the casing to give it a little more structure to it, I'm going to just put this underneath so it doesn't slide on my table. And let's go ahead and put our hat patch on. So I'm going to use this cute hat patch here. While I put the patch on, I'm just going to shimmy that up there, and I'm going to use heat transfer tape for this. I like to use the thicker heat transfer tape for hat patches. I just find that it holds better in my opinion. And then just place your patch wherever you want it. Just going to put this one in the middle. As you can see, the tape doesn't even want to stay on the patch itself. You could also use adhesive spray if you wanted to, but I like to do 1/2 inch roughly. It's pretty close, it'll be all right. And then just make sure it's even. Good job. Then I'm gonna grab a piece of parchment paper and I'm gonna grab my Teflon sheet. What I really like about this leatherette from Amazon, this Amazon brand that I got, it already comes with the heat transfer backing on it, so you don't need to add anything. So just be mindful of that, whether it comes with it or you're gonna have to buy something separate to adhere it to your hats. Okay, first I'm gonna layer my parchment paper, piece of my Teflon sheet just to make it a little more manageable so I can see where I'm working with, but this is just a sheet of Teflon. So our press is ready. So you just want to make sure that you are going to apply it to your transfer. And apply medium pressure. I'm holding the hat as I press it so my thing doesn't slide. Okay. And then I'm going to remove my tape. So it adhered okay. Not really well, actually. Not well at all. Want to know why it didn't want to press? But it's okay. For example, things happen. So let's try it again. We at least have the imprint of where it's going to go. I'm going to do our parchment paper. And our Teflon sheet. The little thing tends to slide. Okay, so I'm going to hold my hat while I do this. You want to make sure you get good pressure. Okay. Then I'm going to remove my tape, and it should be adhered nicely. Oops. Okay, it is stuck on there. And then I usually just will turn my little parchment over because it can have some residue on the other side, and use the fresh side just to hit it one more time. Okay, that's our hat patch. Remove everything, and then just make sure you move your sweatband back and kind of shape your hat back. And then you can adjust it to whatever size you need it to be. Turn off my press. I could have done a better job with the glue. Just be careful not to let your patch slide, because it can create like a glue outline on it. And if it were a darker hat, you honestly probably wouldn't be able to see that whatsoever. But there's our hat. Super cute. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope today's video helped you make your own custom hat patch. If you found this video helpful, please be sure to like it and subscribe for future videos. If you have any questions or need help with any tutorials, please let me know in the comments below. I can't wait to see you next time. Until then, happy crafting.